Welcome to Classes of Mail. Before you listen, you should know that Alan Gigax is not in any sense an official spokesman for the post office, the NALC, or anybody else. His opinions are inherently his own and should probably be disregarded. Same for his guests. Any information you hear on this podcast could be wrong and should not be relied upon for any reason. Enjoy the show.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Classes of Mail. I am still at the rap session. This is probably going to be the third one that airs from the rap session. Doesn't matter. We're at the rap session. We've just finished off, and I'm here with Michael.
Hi, everyone.
All right, Michael and I are sharing a microphone today because on the other microphone, we got Eric Ellis.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
You bet, you bet. And Eric has been on Classes of Mail before. You are an educator from California. I mean, you're a carrier, obviously, from California. But I think of you more as an educator. Tell the listeners, as a refresher, what your role is for now.
Okay, for now. Well, you know, on one of your episodes, I think I mentioned how I'm from cradle to grave, which John Beaumont kind of got on me on because I do teach the academy class still. And so that's the cradle part where, you know, we get carriers in their infancy. And
right.
We try to teach them the basics of the job. I also serve as a legislative officer for our branch and a state district officer for the California State Association. So I cover the Central Valley from Merced all the way down to northern LA County. So the breadbasket of the country. We grow about a third of the nation's food.
Yeah.
Okay. So despite people calling us the armpit, hey, you know, without us, you would starve. Okay. And then
ample yeast and fungus in both.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
And so, you know, and then I just put in for retirement.
Yeah. So that's what I really want to talk to you about, because that is why we say for now, because this is the greatest part of a letter carrier's career, in that you put in all this time, all this work. How many years have you worked for the Postal Service?
Okay, we just start. Okay, we're May 1st now, so we're going to say 34 years and 3 months.
Dude, and if you're willing to say, how old are you?
I will turn 57 in July.
All right. And how does that work out with like minimum retirement age, maximizing your annuity? Like, let's walk through that briefly. We'll get into it in detail later, but briefly.
Okay, people often mistake us for CSRS. Now, with CSRS, if you were 55 and had 30 years in, you could retire.
With a full annuity.
With a full annuity. I'll use my father as an example. My father was a retired postmaster, so people can hiss if you're listening to this if you want.
Yeah.
But you know, as soon as he turned 55, he had 37 and a half years of combined federal service. He had 4 years of military and then the rest postal. Okay. So Halloween of 1990, 6 days after turning 55, he was out of there.
That's the dream.
Yeah. And so when they created FERS in the mid-'80s, they changed it to where now we're on a three-legged stool. You have the pension, which is lower than what the CSRS employees get. You have Social Security and you have the TSP.
Right.
And so ours, I would say, in some instances, is better than CSRS, especially if you maximize your TSP. So,
right. So for the listeners, just in case, TSP is the Thrift Savings Plan, which is like our equivalent of a 401k. Mm-hmm. Hey, by the way, Eric, one time at a previous job, the company asked me if I wanted to sign up for their 401k, and I was like, dude, I could never run that far.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yes. All right. Well, that's a good joke.
Yeah. All right. So anyway, so this is our new retirement system, which essentially everyone at the post office now is on this new system. And so what are the requirements here that you have hit, or how does your retirement age affect your annuity?
Okay. So I was born in 1969. Okay, because I was born in 1969, my minimum retirement age is 56 years and 10 months, which I would hit on May 23rd. Okay. So that is when I'm officially eligible to retire.
May 23rd of this year, like 3 weeks from now.
That's correct.
Nice.
Nice. And so, you know, I am going to hold that off until June 30th. So 2 days ago, before flying to Las Vegas for the training and rap session, I filled out, well, I didn't fill out, it's an online process now. So I submitted an online application through OPM or which we'll get into, and so I submitted the application online Wednesday morning, and it is in. And so,
Okay.
but it is slated to be effective June 30th. That would be my last day on the job,
Right.
and then July 1st will be the effective, that my first day as a retiree, which coincidentally, the same day James Henry will be coming to our
how about that?
coming to our branch.
Yeah,
Yes,
right on. Oh, so your union dues take a sharp decline at that point.
A
once
buck?
you become.
Yeah, they go from 37 something to a buck, and I think a buck and a quarter a month.
Right. Yeah,
Yes.
that's a pretty good deal. Okay, so you're essentially jumping ship at your first opportunity. As soon as you've hit that age and your years of service, you're out. How does that? Are you going to get a full annuity from the post office?
Okay, so because I met the minimum requirements,
Yep.
meaning that I have at least 30 years of federal service, accreditable federal
Right.
service, and I hit my minimum retirement age, there is no reduction in my annuity.
Nice.
So in essence, I get 34% of my high three. Meaning the 36 months, my last
Right.
36 months on the job.
Right. Your highest years
yeah,
of salary,
yeah, exactly.
which are, for almost all carriers, is going to be your most recent 3
The
years.
last 36
Yeah.
months, yes. And
Right.
so, plus I get what's called a special annuity supplement, which according to my
Let's hold off on
Yeah.
that for just a sec, because I think a question that all carriers want to know, myself included, what kind of dollars are we talking about? Just the pension portion of, what the post office is going to pay you forever going forward.
Mm-hmm.
What's the dollar amount?
Okay, so when you fill out, I keep on saying fill out, but when you submit your
Yeah,
retirement
yeah.
paperwork, one of the decisions you make is to select a survivor annuity for a spouse.
Right.
And so in my case, I decided to elect the full survivor annuity, meaning that they're going to
Yeah.
deduct 10% from my
how they
pension.
get you.
So that so if something
Right.
happens to me, my wife gets half of my pension.
Okay.
So if I did not elect a survivor annuity, I would have gotten $2,200 a month.
It's not bad.
So, but they do take 10% out because I elected the full 50%
Okay.
annuity, so it's around $2,000 a month,
Right.
which would be my pension up until I turned 62,
Okay.
when I would start drawing cost of living adjustments.
Oh, that's cool.
FERS annuitants do not get cost of living adjustments till they turn 62.
Interesting. Okay, so you're stuck at $2,000 until you hit 62, and then it starts growing again at that point.
That's correct.
But then you also have whatever you have in your thrift savings plan.
Yes.
And you can start drawing from that, and then you have Social Security. So now let's talk about, we get on the mic. Go ahead.
Yeah. At 57, you get the Social Security supplement from the post office, right?
Well, at
From
50, what?
OPM.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
so he's going to talk about that.
Yeah, so
Okay.
in my case, but to answer his question, if I decided to retire at the end of May, so my minimum retirement age is 56 and 10. But
Okay.
but in his case, it would be 57 because he was born after 1969.
Right.
So we'll just say 57 to keep the math simple,
Right.
because you'd be getting the special annuity supplement for 5 years if you're retired at 57.
Okay.
So basically, that amount for me. And I probably should have brought my annuity state, but
That's all right.
it's roughly $1,800 a month.
Okay, so now between Social Security and the pension, you're talking $4,000 a month. And
Before anything is taken out.
Right.
Yeah.
Like $4,000 of income, which of course is taxed or whatever.
Yes.
And then on top of that, you have whatever you're drawing down off of your thrift savings. So that is a sustainable retirement. Depending on how you live,
Yes.
that is a pretty sustainable retirement. And guys, that's what we're all looking forward to. So explain, you're not supposed to get Social Security until you reach a certain age. So explain for the listeners how that special supplement works.
So you would draw the special annuity supplement up until you turn 62. So the month after you turn 62, that you would get your last, annuity supplement payment, and then it stops. And then if you choose to draw Social Security starting at age 62, that would take the place of the supplement.
Right, gotcha. So it essentially fills that gap where you can retire before Social Security age, and you still get the equivalent of a Social Security payment.
Yeah, that's correct. And so a lot of people, when they compare FERS with the Civil Service Retirement System, the pension portion of CSRS is better than FERS. That is true. But when you put the annuity supplement in the mix,
it's a really nice benefit.
Yeah, exactly. It's not much when you look at the when you read the postal record, the Director of Retirees, they have that chart pretty much every month where they tell you if you've worked so many years what your pension would be like once you hit 20 years and so on.
Okay.
They tell you how much per month you're getting, and then they also have the column if you subtract the survivor annuity.
Right.
So there you can see the difference between CSRS and FERS. Now CSRS, to be certain, yeah, the pension amount is greater than FERS, but if you add in the supplement, it's still a little bit less, but it kind of evens out when you factor the other things that you get. For instance, if you're contributing the 5% to the Thrift Savings Plan, you get the match dollar for dollar.
Right. Did Civil Service not get that?
They can contribute to the TSP, but they don't
There
get
was
the
no
match.
match. Ah, look at that. All right, so that's good. Okay, so let's talk about. Go ahead, Michael. I said just push me out of the way.
So when you're getting the Social Security when you're 62, okay, do you have to file before that saying, hey, this is the day I want to start my Social Security, so you don't lose a month or two?
Okay, that's a good question because everybody who's listening, you should already have set
Good
up.
question.
You should already have set up an SSA.gov account. Okay, see that way, and it's really useful because you track. You can go online and track how much you've earned over your career and what your benefit payment's going to be.
Sorry, it's very distracting.
No,
up
you're
here.
right.
No, go ahead.
But it tells you what an estimate is to if you draw at a certain age, what your benefit's going to be.
Okay.
So in my case, I can go on that site and look and see if I start drawing at 62, what my payment is going to be. But yes, as you're approaching 62, you have a decision to make. When do you want to start drawing? And so yes, you go online and you make that election.
Right on. Okay, so I know you're also a political activist for the NALC, and if I remember right, that special annuity supplement was under threat. So, A, talk about that a little bit, and B, feel free to give a plug for the Letter Carrier Political Fund.
I was talking to somebody about that this morning, how that would have had a great effect on me and a lot of other people because, so one of the things that I've been doing the last couple of years, Craig Bishop teaches the retirement class on a regional level. So he comes to Vegas, Reno, Sacramento, San Mateo, Fresno, region one, maybe, except for Hawaii and certain cities in Southern California.
Probably doesn't go to Guam either.
Not yet. Not yet. Okay. We're working on that.
Yep.
But anyway, but we were talking about that, how if they had eliminated the special annuity supplement in the big, beautiful bill, because if you recall, when it passed the House, the way it was worded is if you were going to retire after 2027, you would not have received the supplement.
Right.
Now, it would not have affected me because I'm eligible to retire this year,
just
2026.
Under the line, yeah.
But originally, when it passed the House Oversight and Government Reform Committee, I would have been on that target list, and so I would not have been able to retire for another 5 years. I mean, because without that extra $1,800 a month, most people I know, it would effectively upped your retirement age to 62 for most.
Right.
And so one of the things that we were talking about in the legislative class, now John Beaumont gave the majority of the classes this morning, and
before you get into that, how does that relate to the Letter Carrier Political Fund?
Okay, so in that big ugly, I'm going to call it a big ugly bill because it didn't really.
I'm not going to argue with you.
There were a number of changes that they were proposing. For instance, we talked about the high three, that they base your pension on your highest earning 36 months. Well, they proposed to change it to the highest earning 60 months or high five.
Right.
And so that was one thing. Besides eliminating the annuity supplement, and so we're talking about these changes. Just eliminating the annuity supplement, you're talking about, depending on how many years of service, you're talking about as much as $120,000 that they're taking away from your, from 57 to 62. So that is quite an amount. Now, one of the things that happened behind the scenes, and a lot of people don't know this about the Letter Carrier Political Fund, but one of the things it pays for are lobbyists.
Okay.
Now,
yes, exactly.
For some people, lobbyists...
This is why I bring it up.
Yeah, lobbyist is a dirty word, right? It's like, okay, you think of people in three-piece suits and smoke-filled rooms and, passing money around to, get people to... But, I hate... hate to break it to you folks, but money is the mother's milk of politics, okay?
Yeah.
We employ lobbyists who work both sides of the political aisle, Democrats and Republicans. So they did their job. When that bill passed the House, there were people working behind the scenes to get Republicans to oppose those provisions in the big, beautiful bill. I think it was in the August Postal Record of last year, there were a group of almost 20 Republicans who wrote a letter to the, I think it was the Senate Majority Leader, demanding that those provisions cutting our retirement benefits be stripped out, and
Nice.
they were.
Yep.
So there you see the letter carrier political fund giving us big dividends. I mean,
It really does matter, guys.
yeah, I mean, because one of the Republicans in my state district is David Valadeo.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when he was first elected, he was not our friend. He wouldn't give us the time of day. He frequently, he wouldn't meet with us. But I remember in 2015, he started, he got on our bills. He became a big supporter. He had no
Right.
reason not to. And so ever since then, he's been a great ally, and we need allies on both sides of the. And so when we put together support for these bills, we try to get as many Republicans. We try to get Republicans to be the lead the author.
Right.
1065, the Protect Our Letter Carrier Act. There's a prime example where you have Brian Fitzpatrick out of Pennsylvania, who's a Republican,
Right.
former FBI agent, and we're above 200 co-sponsors on that bill now.
Yeah, it's
so
getting there.
that bill has life, and so those are things that we're working on, but. Definitely, legislation has the power to affect your standard of living. We saw that last year, and speaking from a personal perspective, I had people coming up to me. I know at several of our retirement seminars that Craig and I put on. I know people came up to me who were my same age, and they were scared, and they had reason to be.
Absolutely. It was the first time in my career that I really started worrying about losing my job.
Yeah. Yes, and I think even based, we just sat through the NALC president's presentation, the wrap session, and so from what I heard of him speaking, now of course he's an insider, and so
Right.
he knows more, I think, than maybe he presents to us, but from what I heard him speak, he talked about the contract, what our prospects are for the contract, and of course he didn't really seem positive, as if we were going to get a positive result.
No.
I mean, that's putting it lightly, but
Yeah.
but here's the only thing that I can think of that I took away as a positive is his relationship he's talking about with the Senate Majority Leader and the Speaker of the House, where he actually said that he has a positive relationship with them.
Okay.
That's the one positive I took from it, because
Yeah.
if he has a good relationship with them, and if he can, get to where they strip out some of this stuff that they might have proposed in the beginning, I'll admit that's good. That's a good thing, right? But
Right.
other than that, though, I'm straining to think of anything
Yeah.
out of that maybe you can take as a
There are
positive.
two complimentary things that people tend to say about Renfro. One is that he's a good speaker. I would say he's a clear speaker. I don't know about good. He's not exactly dynamic. The second one is that he's a decent political operator. And that's probably true. And we do need that. I'm not going to say we don't. Maybe he can get a job as a lickle after he's done serving as president.
Or as a lobbyist.
Yeah, or as
Yes.
a lobbyist or something like that. Yeah, as a lobbyist, he'd be out of the carrying altogether.
Well, hey, both of Mississippi's senators are Republicans, and so
there you go.
And I mean, hey, if they co-sponsor our bills, and that was one of the things that was discussed this morning in the legislative class, was the importance of getting Republicans on our bills, of
Right.
being bipartisan in nature, and it's not, you can't, unless you have a Democratic supermajority. It's
Yeah.
just not. You have to have Republican buy-in at some level to
Right.
get things passed.
And you'd like to think that would come automatic. I mean, I know it doesn't, but we are provided for in the Constitution. And so even constitutional minimalists, like, say, a Rand Paul type, should be supportive of the Postal Service. It's one of the few things government is actually supposed to do. But here we are. And he's the chairman of the Oversight Committee in the Senate, and so you have to, whenever he says things like the Postal Service should be privatized or sold off, or he has said some other things too, that we shouldn't have electric vehicles. I mean, I know he's a big opponent of that, so you have to take what he says seriously. Yeah, absolutely. All right, so you took the retirement class. You've talked about some of the stuff that you learned in there. Did you take any other classes while you were at the wrap session?
Okay, the route inspection class I took, and now Fresno, we've been hit. Several of our stations have gone through route inspections recently, and we lost some routes.
Yeah, it's rough.
But that's happening everywhere.
It is, and I know management says, well, the mail volume is down. but there's still a workload out there, and we're not, for routes like mine, what kind of route do you have? Is it mounted generally?
Mine
Mostly
is mixed,
mounted?
where,
Okay.
so the first 3 hours on my route is mostly business.
Okay.
I have about 30 minutes of mounted, the rest of it's business. And then the second 3 hours would be, I would say a majority mounted with about 30 minutes of walking and the rest apartments.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I can see on a route like that, especially with the business and the apartments, it's very volume sensitive. And having lower volume does mean that it takes less time. The more centralized your delivery is, like if you're delivering to apartments and you have 100 pieces of mail versus 600 pieces of mail, that's going to make a big difference in how long it takes. For me on Park and Loop, which a big chunk of the country still gets their mail that way, the time it takes for me is just how long to walk from each house to each house. And there's not a big impact of volume. And this is a big part of why the post office loses money, because it's a service to bring the mail to people's house, and a service costs money. Let me ask you about your perspective as being someone who's politically active. How do you explain to people that the post office isn't really a business in the normal sense?
Okay, so you mentioned the service part. Okay,
Yeah.
so this is something that we've all seen, where you see like these Amazon Plus drivers where they'll drive up in their own cars, they'll just run up to the porch and just throw the parcel at the doorstep,
Yes.
then run back in their car. Oftentimes they're not alone; they have their families with them as they're delivering stuff. Now they're paying these people. What I saw an advertisement in another state that was posted on Facebook where they're paying them they're paying them $75 to deliver 30 packages, I think, or something
Okay.
of that nature, right? But
Right. They get
that's
a
just,
rate rather than like an hourly pay?
yeah, but
Okay,
how
a
do you
piece
compete
work?
with that? But how do you compete with that? It's just you can't.
Yeah.
I mean, wage-wise, it's a downward drive on
it's
our
a race
wages,
to
right?
the bottom, yeah.
But we're a service, though, right? We're expected to do things like ring the doorbell, to wait for
Right.
them to come to the door,
Yes.
to actually talk to people at the door,
Yes.
to provide, to be that face of the postal service where they're expecting a
Yeah.
uniformed letter
That's it.
carrier at the door, and so that takes time. It takes a certain degree of professionalism.
Yes.
Which they don't. Which these other services, again, they just leave the parcel at the door, and you've probably experienced this where you're at the door. The customer comes out and actually thanks you for ringing the doorbell because
100%.
the other people don't.
Right. And so, guys, when we're making these arguments to Congress or to the public about, hey, we're a service and that's why, we don't need to turn a profit, guys, you have an obligation to make it a service and to actually do the service part of the job. That is going to be key to garnering that public support that we're going to need going forward.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Eric, thank you very much for coming on. Congratulations on your retirement. Okay, before we get out of here, what kind of plans do you have?
Well, okay, July.
Yeah.
Now, July, I mean, my wife already set up a plan, because my brother-in-law, he's a federal employee out of Monterey,
Okay.
works on what used to be Fort Ord, so they've already setting up plans to go to Disneyland, which happened to coincide with my birthday.
Oh, there you go.
Well, Utah Pioneer Day is July 24th, so it's a good
Okay.
thing I don't live there, otherwise they'd never celebrate my birthday,
Right.
But anyway, I did have ancestors who came here on July 24th of 1847. They were
Right.
with Brigham Young, so,
Yeah.
I guess it...
That's something.
I guess it's my birthday. It's like, I guess it fits me.
But, so I guess if I'm hearing right, your answer is, Eric Ellis, you just retired. What are you going to do? I'm going to Disneyland.
I'm going to Disneyland. That's right. That's my
the
first
move, man.
But I would like to do some traveling. That's one of the
Yeah.
things about my life is that I really haven't done a lot of traveling.
Right.
Because we've done a lot of stuff, like for the union, and a lot of times, like, okay, so you're busy, at work, or you know how it is. Where, like, as a steward, which I still am,
Right.
For the next 2 months, we'll see what happens when I retire. Because you can be a retiree and be a steward.
Sure.
You
Yeah.
could. It's like, maybe I shouldn't have
The
said that too
branch
loudly.
pays
It's
a
like-
modest salary to stewards.
They do. And so, a lot of people, when they retire, they still have that fire in their bones. And,
Oh,
and
yeah.
a lot of people that I look up to in the branch, when I teach the academy class, I have our local health benefit rep do a presentation on health benefits. And so one of the things I've always admired about him is that as a retiree, he doesn't have to do that.
Right.
He has no obligation to do that, but he still has that fire in his belly, and he enjoys educating people. And so that's something that I wouldn't mind doing. It's just finding that niche once you're retired,
Right.
because you want to leave things to the younger generation, because at some point, my position as legislative officer, state district officer, someone's going to have to take over for me. That's going to happen.
Do you know who's taking over your position?
As well, which one?
Any of them.
Oh,
any of them. Yeah.
As steward, we actually have someone in mind who. Actually, there's someone who's running the food drive in our branch for the first time, and so she's been approached about taking my place as steward. But my terms as legislative officer and state district officer, I still have several years on both of those.
Oh, wow.
So, but yes,
Okay.
I mean, at some point, I am looking at people to replace me in those positions.
Right. I hope that's not terrifically time-consuming.
Well, it's just I know that with the environment, it's not always an easy thing to find people to step up.
It's true.
And so.
Did you go to the Lickle class that was here?
Okay, the one that John Beaumont set up. Yes, that's the one I went to.
How was the attendance on that?
It was normal, and they did a mock presentation at the end, which
that's
for the
interesting.
people who'd never been involved in a congressional meeting, and I thought Mabel Bullis, who's from Bakersfield Branch 782, which is in my district, she was like a first-time participant, right? And I thought she did a great job,
Right on.
But it's basically to get rid of the jitters because everybody has their first meeting, and I remember my first congressional meeting back in 2009 in Washington, where it was with Jim Costa, and who's still in Congress, and I remember he asked a question. How many postal retirees are there right now?
Oh, boy.
And so I did not. Okay, now I did not have an answer, right? But someone blurted out. I remember 6 billion, and I'm turning my head. It's like, no, I don't think so.
Seem right. Yeah.
But there's nothing wrong with answering. I'll get back to you on that.
Absolutely.
I don't. Or our people will get back to you on that because one of the things that Brian mentioned today was Well, actually, John Beaumont mentioned that we have lawyers, we have accountants, we have people who have the answers to everything, and so we use them.
And this speaks to something that I'd like to send people away with, to our listeners, is that there are things you can do for the NALC besides putting the mail in the box. There are things you can do for the NALC besides filing grievances. There are opportunities to contribute.
And one of them, now that I'll be a retiree within a couple months, is helping people with their retirement.
Yeah.
Now that we have a new system, and see, Michael, I can see, we were talking about this earlier, how by the time he has, 7 or 8 years left, something like that. Okay, but by the time he's ready to retire, I can see, because now they just started that online process. There are a few kinks in the system.
Okay.
It took me a while to upload my marriage certificate, for instance. It didn't upload immediately. Actually, it wasn't until the next day that it finally uploaded.
Wow.
So, but by the time he fills it out, because it's an electronic system, it's probably going to be instantaneous. Where you get
I don't
the
know.
stuff in.
It's still a government site.
It is. I know.
It'll still take at least a few minutes.
Well, yeah, it will. But once you, but I can see that once you. But the bad thing about that is, in theory, is that you won't need human beings to administer the system, and that's the sad part.
And that's the way it's all headed. Yeah.
But I mean that's. But it was. So we are kind of the guinea pigs right now. The first generation to do the application online, but we'll see how it goes. But no, you're right. Yeah. I have to find my niche as to what I'm going to be doing as a retiree, and I don't think my branch is going to have a hard time finding things for me to do, because we do have a number of stations or AOs in our branch that don't have a steward.
Yeah, there you go.
So if I wanted to do that, I could.
You have the flexibility to go into other stations and help them out.
Yeah.
All right. Well, congratulations again on your retirement, and I look forward to following in your footsteps in about 10 years. And guys, thank you very much for listening. From the NALC Region 1 Rap Session, for Eric Ellis, I'm Alan Gigax. Thanks for listening. We'll catch you all next time.